Hello and welcome to another edition of Qmail Toaster Video Magazine. I'm your host, Jake Vickers. In this edition of Qmail Toaster Video Magazine, we're going to cover setting up DKIM for Qmail Toaster. Now, some of you may be aware that domain keys has already been compiled into Qmail Toaster so that you can when you send emails out, you're signing your messages using domain keys if you set it up. I think I covered that in the previous video. If not, I will definitely cover it in a future video. But anyway, domain keys, you can sign your messages going out there included in the stock Qmail Toaster package. Well, domain keys, just like SPF, people found out that, well, it wasn't as good as it had looked on paper. Hackers found ways around it in a very short period of time, and it just didn't work out. It was already compromised within weeks of it even being out there. So they came up with DKIM, which was a combination of domain keys and I believe it was Sender ID policy by Cisco. And those two combined were supposed to be a little bit more secure. I don't know the feasibility of that statement. I personally don't keep up on DKIM or domain keys, but it seems to be a pretty popular one. I believe Google, even Yahoo are using it now for signing their messages, and you get preference when you send emails out. If you're signing with domain keys, I'd say let's take a step back there. I'd say in preference, the first thing if you want to get into people's email boxes, actually get your messages into their inboxes and not in their spam boxes, absolute first thing you must do is set up reverse DNS. I think the next thing you must do is you must configure your server correctly so that it conforms to some of the RFCs and uses things like your host name as the SMTP greeting and things like that. The next thing I think is most important is setting up an SPF record. While SPF is it's not very secure. It's been worked around already. A lot of email servers are actually using it now for checking, and not necessarily denying messages because of SPF, but at least giving you a lower score in Spam Assassin because SPF does match. The next thing I would suggest setting up is domain keys for your emails. And lastly, well, that's what the topic of this video is about, is setting up DKIM. And setting up DKIM in QMail, or QMail in general, in the past has been a rather touchy subject. A lot of people don't understand how it gets implemented, how to put it in there. There was always a lot of odd patched libraries. It just made things really... I think things could have been made a lot easier to get DKIM working in QMail. And that's what we're going to do in this video. This video is going to be short, sweet, and simple. And at the end of the video, you should have DKIM set up for your messages. And I'm going to supply some files, which are going to be the wrapper and the configuration file for DKIM to incorporate it into Qmail Toaster. But I'm also going to include an install script in this package that I'll show you how to download here in the video. That's going to be from the Qmail Toaster website. And in that package is going to be an install script that's basically going to go through every single step that we're going to cover in this video just in a script form. So it's a little bit quicker if you're deploying multiple servers and you want to roll this out. The script should make it a lot easier for you. Now, the standard warnings and waivers in this, I have not tested the DKIM signing that we're using in this video. I have not tested it under load. And I'll say that again, I have not tested it under load. The only way I've ever tested it is just on a personal mail server that probably sends 50 to 100 emails a day and receives probably about the same number of emails per day. I have not tried this on a major production machine that handles tens or even hundreds of thousands of emails per day. Since this wrapper we're going to put in here is only for outgoing, inbound should not matter at all. So you're really going to need to look at what your outbound emails are, and then hey, if you have a medium or higher load email server, or honestly even anything larger than what I've tested it on, which is about 50 outbound emails a day, 50 to 100, then hey, please write us back either on the video website at video.qmailtoaster.com. There's a link on there which I just added to basically leave the editor a message. It's a contact form, and just let me know, hey, what type of operation are you running, and how many outbound emails do you do, and is it working fine with this patch? Love to hear from you, or you can post to the mailing list, which you can get subscribed to that by going to just qmailtoaster.com and just post a message on there saying, hey, yeah, I installed the DKIM wrapper, and I've been signing my messages, and this is how many messages a day that I send out. We'd love to hear it. Like I said, I don't test it under load. I know that's the third time I've said that, but I can't stress that enough because I don't know how it's going to perform on large servers, and I really don't want to see you break your setup. So if you're willing to try some stuff out, respond back to the community. That's what the open source community is all about. Let us know how the experience works out for you. Okay, that all being said, we're going to go ahead and get this installed. And what I've done here is I've set up a brand new machine using my CentQMT5 ISO, which you can pay for a download to purchase the download of the ISO, and you can get those at iso.qmailtoaster.com, or if you just go to qmailtoaster.com, you'll see the links over on the left-hand side under QMail Toaster Store. And what for those who are not familiar with it, what the ISO does is it's a ISO that you burn to a CD, and then you throw it into your server. And what the ISO does is it installs CentOS version 5. There is a free version, or a free download, because some bandwidth was graciously donated by TriCube Media. You can download the free download version, and that will install CentOS 4. And if you're going to install that version, I would just recommend that you immediately do updates, because I don't maintain that one any longer. I originally wrote it, but I don't do any updates to it. So the CentOS packages are going to be way out of date. Same thing for the QMail Toaster packages. I don't update the QMail Toaster packages on the free downloaded version either. But if you do purchase the download for the CentQMT5 version, which there's also a 64-bit version out now, I do update the packages in that one, and I update both the CentOS packages and the QMail Toaster packages. And when you purchase a download for that, that's good for any future updates that I do. Like if I go ahead and I know CentOS is getting ready to roll out, or Red Hat Enterprise in general is getting ready to roll out another update to their Enterprise desktop version, or Enterprise server version 5. As soon as that hits the airwaves here, and I get a good version of it, and do at least a little bit of testing on it to make sure it's not going to interfere with anything, I go ahead and I update the ISO, and then I put the ISO into your download section if you purchase the download, and you can download that new version with no additional charge. All right, that's enough free advertising for myself there. But anyway. So we're going to log into a server here that I just set up with the CentQMT5 ISO. So we're all set up on that machine. Get all logged in here. Okay. And the first thing we're going to do is we need to go ahead and we're going to need to install the RPM Forge repo. And we're going to do this because I'm going to grab some Perl packages that are not usually included in the base repository for CentOS. And the wrapper does need to reference a few of these files. Actually, it needs a few of these Perl packages so that it can actually run correctly. Let's see. And so I'm going to use RPM Forge repo in this video. You're more than welcome to use any other repo you want that's going to provide you with similar packages. I'm going to download their repo directly. I know they give some instructions on there how to install it using RPM, but I've never honestly had any luck with that. So I always just download it and then RPM-UVH it myself. That one always works. Okay, now that we have their repo installed, let's go ahead and let's get some the Perl packages installed that we're going to need for this video. And real simple, just yum install perl-xml-parser. I'm sorry, XML simple. Perl-mail-DKIM, Perl-XML- actually we did need parser. And this is probably going to grab some other dependencies as well, and that's perfectly fine. These are the three main packages that we need to get installed. Now, since this is basically what we're doing is we're going to replace qmail remote with a Perl wrapper. So when you get ready to send messages, normally in the qmail process, the messages will then go, when you send it, goes to qmail remote to be processed, to be actually sent out. And what we're going to do is we're going to replace qmail remote with a Perl script. And what this Perl script is going to do is it's going to call an XML file, which is going to be our configuration file. Then it's depending on what variables you put in that configuration file, it's going to sign the messages using the DKIM key signature that we're going to generate in this video as well. And then it's actually going to call the old qmail remote file, which we're going to rename to qmail-remote.org. It's going to call that one so it actually send the message out. So the wrapper that we're replacing qmail-remote with is not actually going to send any email. The only thing it does is it gets the email message, it wraps it with the DKIM signature, and then it sends it to qmail-remote.org to actually send it out. And if you do look in the install script that I supply, you're going to see that some of those names like qmail-remote.org they do need to be exactly what we're calling them and what we're going to rename them to. You can actually go in and edit the Perl script, which is qmail-remote, and you can change that if you want, but that's probably, it's going to be beyond the scope of this video. We can't cover every last single customization you could possibly do with a system in one quick little 30-40 minute video. This machine that I installed the CentQMT5 on is a rather old machine with very little RAM, but hey, it's what I had sitting on my workbench when I got ready to do the video, and it was in a position that I could format it and reinstall it because, well, it's going to probably move up into the attic till I can think of something in the future to use it for. So, since it is rather slow, it's going to take a little while to install the packages that we need and process the RPM Forge repo. Now, there are other repos, are other repos out there. Some of the other ones that I've used in the past are Atomic Turtle. That one's a pretty good one, especially if you're looking for updated PHP packages, because you want the APC cache or something like that. That'll be of note for PHP programmers if you don't want to actually run through the laborious process of compiling PHP and installing it yourself, then that's probably a great repo to use. RPM Forge, while I don't necessarily use it on my big production machines, it does supply a lot of updated and new packages, and packages that you just can't get in the general repos. Hence, that's the reason we're using it in this video. And here it's going to grab the RPMs we need. And it's going to process the dependencies here. Quick little funny story here while we're waiting on this. I actually worked on a machine that, I was installing a mail server package for them to get them with AP, or the compliance, PCI compliance for credit cards. And they were running, I had to log into one server, which then would allow me to connect to another server over a VPN. Meanwhile, they were recording the whole session. And basically, it was like working on an old 1200 baud modem, to be honest. I would type up a command like, just type up anything, like yum install. And I would type it, and then I'd have to wait, honestly, probably a second and a half for it to actually appear on the screen. Anyway, now that that's done installing the Perl packages, we're going to need to create a couple, well, at least a directory here for our configuration file and for our DKIM key signatures. And to do that, we're just going to do make dir /var /qmail /control /DKIM. because we're going to create the DKIM signatures to go in there. This is going to be our DKIM configuration directory. And now let's go ahead and let's generate our key. So, and this command is actually included with the Perl mail DKIM package. So we're going to do dk new key /var /qmail /control /DKIM /global.key, because we're going to assign all of our domains on this server globally, greater than, or pipe it into, oops, /var /qmail /control /DKIM /public.txt. And that should process pretty quickly, because that's not really a really involved command. Now, when it does that, let's go ahead and make sure that it created the files for us. So I'm going to var qmail control /DKIM. And there you can see our two key files, and you can take a look at the actual key files as well. The one you're going to be interested in is the public.txt, because what this does is this actually is what you need to put into your DNS log, or your DNS zone file for your domain. For the other servers, when you sign a message with domain key, the way it works is your server is going to sign the message using a key. And the receiving server gets the message, takes a look at the key, and then goes back into DNS to see if the other key matches it. That's where we get our public and our private keys. And it's going to go back and it's going to say, okay, does the public key match the private key? And if it does, then hey, great, you've signed your message with DKIM and it's been verified, and hey, everything's hunky-dory. If it doesn't, then you failed DKIM and you'll get marked down in the spam, if not outright spam scoring, if not outright rejected. Now, you're welcome to use global.key._domain key. I think that one's a little bit long to put into DNS. I prefer not to use it myself. I like something a little bit smaller and simpler. So that's what we're going to use in this video, and it's also what we use in the script. So let's go ahead and let's modify the file and change global.key._domain key, and we're just going to change that to DKIM1. And we're going to do that using basically a one-liner Perl script, which is Perl-pi-e single quote s/, and then the text we're looking for, which is global.key._domain key / what we're going to change it to, DKIM1, trailing / single quote, and then /var /qmail /control /DKIM /public.txt, and that's going to be the file that we're going to change. And now let's go ahead and let's cat the file again just to make sure that it did change it. And there you can see we did change it from global key, and now it is read as DKIM1. And that'll make things a lot easier, especially since the configuration file that I'm going to supply you is set up for that. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and let's set the permissions for the DKIM key files and for the configuration file we're going to put in there. Let's see, I'm just trying to make sure that we have all the files there. Okay, we need to get the configuration file now. So actually, let's download that, and I do have this package on the qmailtoaster website. It doesn't actually show on the website at this point, but the link is there. You can wget qmailtoaster.com /dkim.tgz, and that will get you the file. Let's uncompress it, and that creates a folder called DKIM, and we'll cd into it. And there you see it's just three simple little files. And the install.sh file, that's the actual installation script that I put together for you. That if you just run that, will actually do everything that we're doing in this video and make it a lot shorter. But what we need to do is we need to move the sign conf.xml file into our /var /qmail /control /DKIM directory, because that's our configuration file telling qmail remote how to process the outgoing messages. And now we'll go ahead and we'll set the permissions. And to do that, it's just a chown. Scroll down past my notes on the other screen here. Chown -r qmail r colon qmail /var /qmail /control /DKIM. And the -R is just going to recursively change the owners of all the files and the directory DKIM to qmail r colon qmail, or the group qmail. And now that we have our configuration file in there, now's a good time to go ahead and edit your DNS. And remember, what you need to, let's clear the screen here, make it a little easier to read. What you need to put into your DNS record, let me get this catted out here first. And this record that we're showing here is set up for bind, and that's what the dknewkey command is going to set up for you, is a bind entry. If you're using another DNS server or daemon, then you'll have to adjust as necessary. I use bind, so that's what we're going to show in this video. But you would basically, for your domain, just paste this into your zone file, increment the serial, and then refresh your DNS, and then after that, all your outgoing messages, when you sign them, the remote server will take a look at it, see that it's signed, then come back here and look for the DKIM1 selector, which is the record, and see if the keys match or if they hash out together. And if they don't, then well, you get bounced, or it gets moved into the spam folder. And if it does, then hey, you've signed your messages with DKIM and everything's all hunky-dory. Okay, now that we've done that, what we need to do now is we need to replace qmail remote with the wrapper that we're going to use. And first we need to stop qmail. And up until this point, nothing's changed really as far as incoming outgoing email. We're not actually doing anything, not signing any messages outgoing with DKIM, nothing of that nature. So nothing major has changed yet. But now that we've stopped qmail, now we're going to actually replace the qmail remote file. And now's when we're actually making real changes to the system. So let's go ahead and we need to move the old qmail remote binary, and we're going to move it back into, or you could just rename it, var qmail bin /qmail-remote.org. And now that name needs to be qmail-remote.org. That's what the wrapper is actually going to reference to send the message out. If you want to change that for whatever reason, I don't recommend you do, then you need to actually go in and edit the qmail remote Perl wrapper and change the reference in there for that. Okay, now that we've changed that, remember when you downloaded the package from the Qmail Toaster website, you'll see that there's qmail-remote here. And let's just go ahead and move qmail-remote to var qmail bin. And now we need to go ahead and set the permissions on it. And we need to chmod it with 777 for it to work right. And then we also need to change the ownership of the file. We're going to change it to root :qmail, because the file is going to be owned by root and the group's going to be qmail. And qmail remote. And now we can bring qmail back up. And now outbound messages will be signed using DKIM, and the public key that we did up here in the public.txt file. When an outbound message goes out, it'll be signed with the global key. The receiving server will get the message, see that it's been signed with the global key, then it'll go back and reference the DNS record, because the global key is going to tell it to look for DKIM1 in DNS for that text record. It's going to go back and it's going to look for it. It's going to hash the two keys together and see if they match or not. At this point, any outbound emails on your server are now signed with DKIM. There are some further configuration you can changes you can make to the configuration file for the new qmail-remote wrapper that we used. Now would probably be a good time to go ahead and send a test message. The one I like to use is sa-test@sendmail.org. Maybe sendmail.net. But that one, when you send a message to them, you'll get a reply back usually within 10-15 seconds, and it will show you the basically the validity of your message. It'll check your domain key, it'll check DKIM, it'll check sender policy, and it'll check SPF, and it'll let you know how they turned out, whether they were okay, whether they were good, whether there was mismatches, so on and so forth, and that'll let you know if everything's working right. But at this point, well, I've tested it before, so this should work for you. I will put a link in the show notes so that you can look up a little bit more on the configuration of the DKIM wrapper, and I'll probably cover that in another video, because right now every single domain that sends email on your server is going to be signed with DKIM. And what I'll do is in a future video I'll cover configuring it, maybe even next week. I'll cover configuring it a little bit more so that you don't sign every single domain that's on the server. And that's going to conclude this video. We thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next week.